What's going on, everybody, and welcome to your Financial Dose. Today, we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic because it's actually about current events. As we all know, the coronavirus has been shutting down the global economies over the past couple of months, and this has really had large repercussions on our day-to-day life. If the local governments hadn't actually intervened, the situation would be far worse. There would most likely be a much deeper recession and a much higher level of human loss. Since everybody's staying inside, it's kind of preventing the spread or the accelerated spread of the virus, but at the same time, we are overall spending less, and a lot of us have actually lost our jobs or temporarily lost our jobs because if the offices can't stay open, if the restaurants can't open, then there's absolutely no point in having employees there. Furthermore, unemployment has hit record levels in the past 10 years, but since, let's say, mid-March, the stock markets have been slowly rallying to higher and higher levels. Obviously nothing like they were before the virus hit, but they are at actually similar levels as we saw back in May of 2019. So what can actually explain the gradual increase in stock prices since the lows that we've seen back in March? Could it be that either investors thought that they all oversold their positions in March, so now they are re-entering the market? Or could it be something else that is slowly propping up the financial markets? I really wonder, what could it be? Could it have to do with the $2.3 trillion that the feds are actually injecting into the economy? Most likely. So back at the beginning of April, the feds announced that they were going to be injecting $2.3 trillion in the form of loan commitments to help out local businesses and governments actually pay their bills or keep employees on payroll or stay afloat. During the week of this announcement, the Dow actually went up 12%. Just to show you the overall optimism that Wall Street had towards such an announcement. So what the feds are saying is that no matter the situation, they're really ready to step in and bail out the US economy. And in turn, if the feds bail out the US economy, well, it creates an overall sense of confidence in our capitalist system. If we look back in 2008, when the credit market started to freeze and people were starting to lose faith in the capitalist system, the stocks took a big hit and many people lost their job. We then hit what we now know as the financial crisis. Just to give you an idea of the scale that the Federal Reserve will actually be injecting money into the economy, at some point they were actually buying $32 billion worth of treasury bills per day. In more recent news, the Federal Reserve has actually indicated that they're going to start purchasing corporate bonds. Now, not any type of corporate bond. They're going to mostly focus on fallen angels, which are categorized as companies that have actually lost their credit ratings or that their credit ratings have actually decreased compared to before the pandemic. So if they were investment grade before the pandemic and then after the pandemic hit, they actually became junk bonds. These actual companies are what the feds consider fallen angels, and these are bonds that the feds will be purchasing. A few examples of fallen angels are Ford, Macy's, and Delta Airlines. So one may ask, well, how does purchasing bonds actually prop up the financial markets, since bonds and stocks are a little different? If you have a company in desperate need of funding, investors are going to get very worried about the sustainability of the company. So by the feds actually agreeing to buy their junk bonds at this point, since they no longer have investment-grade credit ratings, they're essentially saying, don't worry about what's happening. You got money from us, no problem, we'll buy your bonds. They'll even be at favorable terms compared to what you would get in the market if a junk bond company were actually trying to raise financing in that way. So once the company secures financing, well, investors aren't as worried about the company actually not surviving anymore. So this sort of props up the stock price because this whole level of uncertainty is removed from the actual operation of the company, which makes it a much less risky investment for stock investors. However, the problem that this may cause is when you look at a country, and in the country there's a whole bunch of companies, some are efficient and some are not, and then the way that you can see a recession is kind of the purging of all these non-efficient companies. And the reason why you want to have efficient companies is because you want to be investing in an efficient economy. The more efficient companies are, the more waste there are within the system, and this leads to an unoptimal use of capital. Think of it this way. If governments, or in some countries, governments get so big, or governments have so much control over the population and over the day-to-day activities of the country, that you can have a development of corruption that starts, where a lot of people are pulling money out of the government system and putting it in their pockets. This makes a much less efficient use of capital. And in the end, the population ends up suffering with a reduced standard of living. Now, although if the feds just stick to buying bonds, this shouldn't be too serious of a problem because, again, if a company is able to take debt and actually profit from it, it's still somewhat viable. However, the Fed's actually said that nothing's off the table to prop up the economy. So what if they start buying equities? What could this possibly do to our stock markets if they actually willy-nilly started buying stocks in the markets that actually needed help? Or if they started buying stocks in general just so that the stock market could maintain a certain level and sort of incite confidence in investors and sort of project confidence in the market so that investors won't be so fearful of actually getting back in. Well, this would actually be a huge problem because the way the stock market works, or the way the stock prices are actually coming to be, is that you value the company or its intrinsic value and you try to figure out how much is, for example, Apple worth today, based on all the revenue projections, based on the expected growth, based on projected new product announcement. You try to take all this information and add it to a model, and at the end of the day, this model will give you a stock price, or this price that Apple should be, based on all the information that we know today. If the Fed started buying, for example, Apple, I'm sure they would buy broad market ETFs, so they could buy something like the SPY, which is the S&P 500 index. But if, for example, they were to actually buy a company like Apple, well, if the Feds are buying the stock price will go up. But that price is going up not because Apple is more innovative, not because they actually had a better financial quarter than the last one or than the expectation, but simply because the Feds are buying their stock for no other reason than to prop up the economy. Now, this can be a huge problem, and if they actually do start buying equities, it'll be very interesting to see how investors cope with that. But for now, they're only sticking to bonds, so this problem isn't such a big deal, but we should keep an eye out to see how the situation progresses. So another interesting question is to ask ourselves, well, how far can this actually go? What some experts are saying, or economists, they're saying that the Feds are actually printing money at an unprecedented rate, which isn't really any new information, but they're actually projecting the amount of money injected in the economy to be around $3.5 trillion. Now, this would be about 50% more than the $2.3 trillion that the Feds initially committed to. And also, economists say that without these drastic economic measures, the economy would have crashed 10 times over. So on one side, you see it as, well, how are we going to pay all of this debt back? But on the other hand, if they hadn't done it, and if they hadn't increased their deficit, well, how would the economy survive, and what would happen to the population? Now, we won't actually be going down these large rabbit holes, but just keep that in mind that if you aren't in agreement with what the Feds are doing right now, I'm not saying I am or I'm not, but think about it. If they're not injecting money in the economy gets much worse, much more job loss. If they actually wouldn't have locked down the different cities or the different countries or the different provinces as a whole, then the virus would have spread much more, and there would have been much higher levels of loss of life. So the fact that the governments are closing down the economies and the fact that the Feds are actually propping up the economy or doing their best to save what's left of it, it's sort of creating the situation where we're in limbo and we're not too sure which force is going to overpower the other. And if, let's say, the negative force overpowers the Feds, well, how far are they actually willing to go to prop up the economy again? Again, I'm not saying this is going to happen and this is not going to happen. These are just thoughts that you guys should think about if you have a strong opinion about what's going on right now in terms of how the Feds are propping up the economy and how governments are actually choosing to shut down cities. So now, being a personal finance channel, it's also interesting to look at how do the Feds actually inject money in the economy. They don't just print money and hand it out in the streets and say, here you guys go, pick the money, buy more stuff, keep the economy going. What they actually do is they purchase treasury bonds or T-bills or treasury bills from large commercial banks like JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, and so on and so forth. And what happens when they actually purchase bonds that big banks are holding, the banks exchange the bonds for cash, and the treasuries receive the bonds and they give cash to the banks. So this cash that they then give to the banks can then be lent out to consumers, to companies, to try to keep the economy going and to try to keep the credit markets very liquid. If ever there were a lack of capital and the banks felt less comfortable lending out money, well, companies can no longer get loans, people can no longer buy homes, and then the whole economy comes to a halt. That's what you call a credit crisis. Now, with the increase in capital in the system, this also decreases the interest rate, because if there's more money, it's less scarce, and if it's less scarce, then the overall interest rate goes down because it's readily available. And what a lower interest rate does is it stimulates spending. Think about it. If you wanted to buy a car, and the interest rate on that car loan or on your lease terms was 10% versus 1%, you may think twice before signing the contract for 10% because your monthly payments could be, say, an extra $120 a month. which is quite significant on a $500 car loan. Another very interesting thing is that when the feds actually buy these treasury bills, the Federal Reserve cannot actually make a profit. So any profit that they do make by holding these bonds has to go back to the Treasury. The Treasury is the organization that actually issues these treasury bonds or treasury bills. That's why they're called treasury bonds or bills. At the same time, for all these loans, or the $2.3 trillion that the feds have committed, the feds are assuming that these companies and governments will actually end up paying the loans back. But what happens if they don't pay them back? Because at the end of the day, the feds can't make money, so any loan that is not paid back then ends up expanding the deficit for the Treasury. But to sort of alleviate this issue, Congress has put aside almost $500 billion to help pay off these loans if they actually don't get paid back by the borrowers. So back to what I said at the beginning of the video, based on these current stock prices or market levels, if we infer economic activity by actual stock prices, we would be looking at an economic activity or an economic situation back in May of 2019, which to me seems highly unlikely. Because in May of 2019, there was no pandemic. Simply put, there was no pandemic. If you isolate everything else going on in the world, any positive news or any possible positive news that we can be having right now in 2020, compared to May of 2019, there was still no pandemic. So how is it that the stock prices of today are at levels of back in May? Well, from what we can see, the feds came in and bailed out the market. Because the market is too big to fail. Think about it. If the stock market actually lost 50% of its value, what would happen to the global economy? What would happen to the people? How would that change your day-to-day life? Every year that goes on, people are more and more reliant about stocks. Everything is more and more about corporations, about corporate profits. And back, 100 years ago, maybe 5, 10, 15% of the population actually had money in the stocks because it was still a very new concept and it was much more complicated to purchase securities. Now, with platforms like Wealthsimple accessible to anybody, you can practically open your account on your phone in a matter of minutes. Why would people not want to invest in the markets? Or who would actually not want to put their money in? It's a relatively simple, relatively proven method of investing your money compared to real estate and stuff like that. It's very simple and accessible. So many more individuals have their retirement in the stock markets, have their little nest egg in the stock markets. And if this were to fail, I think that the impact would be far worse than if it would have failed 20 or 30 years ago. And I'm not saying the markets haven't crashed in the past, but for the markets where we are currently to go down 50%, we would really be putting into question our economic system. This is very similar to what happened back in 2008 with the credit crunch. So not only are the markets higher than their all-time lows, or not their all-time lows, but their lows of back in March, because of the Federal Reserve injecting a whole lot of capital and saying that they would do pretty much anything in their power to prop up the economy, we need to understand that the stock market is forward-looking. So if you're looking at an economy in a recession, so we're at really the bottom of the recession where it's really in the worst state possible. So it's the highest level of unemployment, it's the highest level of global suffering because, no money, no jobs. Maybe you have a hard time buying food for the family. Maybe you can't even pay for a roof over your head. So this is really the actual worst spot of an economy. Well, where is the stock market at compared to the economy? If the economy is at an all-time low or at its trough, for this current business cycle, the stock markets are actually going to be on the way up because they're forward-looking. The stock market knows, I'm using air quotes because they assume that they know that the recession is coming to a halt and that in about 3 to 6 months, the economy is going to start back, either because the Federal Reserve lowered rates, central banks around the world lowered rates, or they're trying to implement different programs to stimulate the economy. So either fiscal programs that are carried out by government or monetary programs that are carried out by central banks. So looking at the situation today with the virus, maybe I personally think that the stock market is sort of pricing in a vaccine or a medication or a cure to the coronavirus in the near future, along with the feds actually propping up the economy to no limits, as well as general optimism that when the economy starts to open up again, things are going to be much better. But at the same time, there's a lot of news coming out that governments are actually saying that it's going to be much more complicated to open up the economy compared to what they thought initially. Because the last thing they want is to create a second wave of the virus that they cannot control. Think about how many people would be extremely upset with government if they told them that they needed to shut down the countries or shut down the cities again because they mismanaged the opening of the economies. So this really begs the question, are markets rigged? If you were an investor back in, say, February of 2020, and you saw how the coronavirus was spreading in China, and you said, you know what, I'm going to short the markets because I don't see how this is stopped if governments don't, lock down countries or stop air travel. And then, weeks go on, the markets are still hitting all-time highs, and then all of a sudden, they start to go down, 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 down. They go down so much that they trigger the market breakers, when the stocks go down more than 13%, trading is halted for about 15 minutes. Well, those were triggered, I think, 3 to 4 times during this pandemic, which just shows how much panic there was going around the world, and nobody really knew what to do, because we've never seen a situation like this before. So you're an investor that shorted the stocks, and you're very happy, because your actual hypothesis is coming true, and you're making money. However, all of a sudden, you hear on the news that the Federal Reserve will be injecting $2.3 trillion into the economy to prop it back up. Isn't that unfair to you, the investor that actually had a good hypothesis and decided to short the market, to bet against the whole system? And you were right. The system was crumbling, the system was failing. But then government comes in and they're injecting huge sums of money in the market just to keep it afloat. Not because they're creating economic value per se, but they're creating a sense of confidence by bailing out the markets. So in my opinion, I think that it's very risky to bet against the economy because the game is, yes, a little rigged. Now, I'm not saying that it's a problem, because if it weren't rigged and we actually did let the economy fail because of this pandemic in this case, the actual result would be devastating. It would be devastating for the global economy, it would be devastating for families, it would be devastating for our standard of living as well. What the world is doing, all the governments giving money to its citizens, giving money to government, or lending money to government, lending money to companies, is just a way for us to preserve our current way of living. So next time you want to short the market, keep that in mind. And every time we hit a recession, we are exposed to different degrees that the feds are actually willing to save their way of living. And I'm using the feds because, all the press is around the United States of America. Everybody talks about the Federal Reserve, and usually they make the biggest moves. But a lot of countries are actually following suit. Well, guys, I know this was kind of a long one, and I know that it's been a while since I haven't posted, but a lot has been going on. And I hope that you guys learned something today, that you guys are staying safe, staying indoors, and washing your hands. If you enjoy the content that I create, feel free to subscribe to my channel and hit that like button. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.